I want to welcome you back to Thrive in the Word. We are so glad that you've decided to join us for this video. You know, what we're talking about is so essential, not only for our own spiritual development, but it's so essential in reaching the world. You see, I believe that one of the greatest hindrances that we have in world evangelism is when people don't understand that God loves them, and therefore they don't love others. And John here many times has been called the apostle of love. And you know what, John here in this writing, in this message that he's writing, he talks about the love of God over and over and over again. Now today we're in 1 John, the 4th chapter, verse number 15. And it says, all who declare that Jesus is the Son of God have God living in them, and they live in God. Now, what's John talking about? Again, he's talking about us having God on the inside of us. And in verse number 13, he says that God has given us his Spirit, and that his Spirit lives and abides in us. That's evidence of our relationship with God. And then John goes on in verse number 14, and he said, we saw him with our eyes. We saw him living here on the face of the earth, and we testify that the Father has sent his Son. And now in verse number 15, he says, all who declare that Jesus is the Son of God have God living in them. You see, God lives on the inside of all of us as believers. He lives on the inside of us. Now, how does he come? We declare. We declare that Jesus is the Son of God. Now, this declaration is not just something that comes just as a mental assent. This comes in faith. You know, we need to take all of the Bible in together before we form doctrines. Now, there's some say that all you need to do is believe that Jesus is the Son of God and you're saved. Well, you need to believe and you need to confess, but you need to believe in your heart that Jesus, you need to trust him with your life. And so John says that whoever declares that Jesus is the Son of God have God living in them, and they live in God. Now, verse number 16. And we know how much God loves us. You know, that's really where it begins. You know, there are believers that still walk around in guilt and condemnation. You see, one of the ideologies that John is trying to defeat, trying to protect believers from, is this ideology that you still need good works in order to appease God. You know how many religions there are that are based on works. In fact, I think all religions are based on works except for the religion called Christianity. If you even want to call it a religion, I don't believe it's a religion. I believe it's a relationship with God. But they're all based on works. I remember years ago going to the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, and I was ministering in Merida. And one afternoon they said, let's go out and let's go to the ruins. And let's take a look at these ruins. And so we went out there, and there was a pyramid type of temple there. And I remember climbing to the top, and at the top there was a hole, and you could look down that hole and see skeletons of human beings, and they had been sacrificed to God to appease his anger. Well, you know what? Those people believe that they needed to work. Now, those were ancient people, but they had something on the inside of them that said, we need to do something to appease God. We need to do something. And you see, when a believer doesn't believe that what Jesus did on the cross is enough, that they have to work, do, achieve. You know, we're living in a time, especially here in America, where we've got people that they're obsessed with achievement. And you know what? One of the reasons why is they really don't understand that God loves them, period. He doesn't love them because of what they do. He just loves them. And all they need to do is say, God, I accept your love for me. I accept it. I take it. I receive it by faith. And so John writes here, and again in the 16th verse, and he says, we know how much God loves us, and we have put our trust in his love. Where's our trust? In our works? Is our trust in being good enough? Well, if it is, you're putting your trust in the wrong place. Well, my trust is in the church. No, you're putting it in the wrong place. You need to trust the love of God. And when you trust something, you know what? When you trust something, you put your weight on it. You bear your weight on whatever you trust. I trust that God loves me, and he loves me unconditionally. We trust the love of God. And then John goes on and he says, God is love. And all who live in love live in God, and God lives in them. God is love. He is love. He's truth, but he's love. He's the absolute of everything. He is the absolute love. So I ask you today, are you feeling weary? Are you feeling like you're just not ever doing enough to please God? And start putting your trust in the love of God. And stop putting your trust in your achievements. Are you filled with guilt and condemnation? Start putting your trust in not what you've done in the past, not what you're going to do in the present or in the future, but put your trust in the love of God. We're going to see you tomorrow. But until we see you and speak to you again, you know what? Trust God. Trust his love for you.